There's no such thing as an unanswered prayer. God answers every prayer with either a yes, a wait, or an outright no. The last response is always the most difficult one to receive, and can be flat out heartbreaking. But we need to realize the fact that God says no when He has a better plan in mind. Trust that God does everything out of His goodness and love. Maybe you've prayed and petitioned for God to open doors in your life, only to feel the breeze of door after door swinging shut at you. Maybe you've prayed for the healing of a loved one, just to see him or her pass away. Or perhaps you prayed for a new job and never got it. When we pray for something and it does not happen, it is easy to believe that God has not answered our prayers. We begin to think that God has forgotten us, or was too busy dealing with something bigger or better. However, no prayer prayed goes unanswered. The answer just might not be what we expected. Sometimes God says yes, while other times His answer is not yet, or even no. If you have ever felt God saying no, you're in good company. David, one of Israel's kings, and a man after God's own heart, asked God to build a temple, and God said no. 1 Chronicles chapter 28, verses 2 and 3. Then David the king stood up upon his feet and said, "Hear me, my brethren and my people. As for me, I had in mine heart to build an house of rest for the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and for the footstool of our God, and had made ready for the building. But God said unto me, Thou shalt not build an house for my name, because thou hast been a man of war and hast shed blood." Paul, author of most of the New Testament, begged God 3 times to remove a thorn piercing into him, and God said no. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 through 9. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Jesus even petitioned for God to rid him of his suffering the night before he died on the cross, and God said no. Mark chapter 14, verses 35 and 36. And he went forward a little, and fell on the ground, and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible unto thee. Take away this cup from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what thou wilt. Jesus knew that his Father's plan was important. He knew the burden was necessary. He obeyed. After all, if God hadn't told Jesus no, we would have never had the opportunity of salvation. God tells us no because he knows that there is something better for us. In Isaiah chapter 55, God makes a comforting statement to his people. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Isaiah chapter 55, verse 9. If God is telling you no, don't lose hope. Trust that God knows what He is doing and has something better than what we wanted. It is hard to accept no for an answer, and easy to believe that God's decline is a sign of His rejection. But God never says no to mock us. His no is to make room for a better yes in our lives. God knows what's best for our lives, and sometimes what's best involves saying no. When God says no, take hope. He's making room in you to move in ways that you cannot even imagine. We need to realize that there is no such thing as unanswered prayers. God always has our ultimate good in mind. His no is not because He is cruel or depriving us. He knows better than we do, and His no is always merciful, even when it hurts. He is for us, fighting against what will keep us from Him. He wants us to have something so much better than what we have in mind. You want God to provide for you, but it feels like He hasn't. What's worse, it feels like He won't. When God tells us no, it can seem like a hard blow. We have these great plans, and we just know that God will fully support us. God's plan for your life is better than any we can come up with. He knows who you are and who you can be. He knows where you fit in with the overall plan. It's okay to grieve about God's no. He knows we don't understand His plan. He can take our feelings of defeat and frustration. Once we grieve, though, it's time to dust ourselves off and say, what's next? If we will dedicate ourselves to God's purpose, we can find great joy in the places He leads us. Therefore, we must let God be in control. The more we fight against His no's and His will for our lives, the harder our lives become. If we will accept that God is in control and knows more than us, we can create the lives we were meant to live with more joy. This doesn't mean things will be easy. It simply means we will be within God's will and knowing He is there with us through each step. Finally, Deuteronomy chapter 31 verse 6 says, "Be strong and of good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, He is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you."